Salut! These next videos are dedicated to the two extra structures using mixed tenses you must be able to recognize, understand, and use for your GCSE. The Depuis structure indicated a situation in relation with a time, and the si-clause structure involving two tenses corresponding to your if-then structure in English. In this first video, we will concentrate on the depuis structure. Depuis means since or for in English. So here, we will be learning how to say the equivalent of your I have been learning French since 2016. Or again, I have learned French for 4 years. As you will notice, both sentences here refer to an action that began in the past and continues in the present. In English, this is indicated by past tenses. I have been learning and I have learned. But in French, as the action expressed is still going on in the present, we will use the present tense instead. As described on your document, you will see the sentence Mary has been living in Paris since 2012, could also be phrased as Mary lived in Paris for 8 years, which is exactly the same. In both cases, you are using a past tense in English. Mary has been living and Mary lived. Depending on whether you're using have been living or lived, you will use in English since or for. But in French, once again, we will only have one option for this. Since Mary is still living in Paris, we will choose the present tense for the verb to live here in this example. To live being habiter, our sentence will then become Marie habite à Paris depuis 2012. Ou encore, Marie habite à Paris depuis 8 ans. So for us, when you use since or for in English, we will use depuis in both cases. In French, the structure depuis could come after or before the verb. You could say depuis 8 ans, Marie habite à Paris, just like you could say Marie habite à Paris depuis 8 ans. There isn't a right or wrong version. Just to help you recognize the idea here, this structure could also be used, of course, in a question as shown on your document. To take our example, the question to such an answer will be in French, Depuis combien de temps Marie habite-t-elle à Paris? How long has Mary been living in Paris? Depuis combien de temps would be translated into since how long, depuis being since, and combien de temps being how long. And then the rest will follow the previous explanation. We will use the present when you will use the past. Elle habite will become habite-t-elle, as remember, when asking question, we very often swap our subject and our verb around, just like you in English. And here, because our verbs is ending with a vowel, and the subject elle here does also start with a vowel, we need to add the little t in between to make it sound better. So, habite-elle will become habite-t-elle. And our question altogether will be depuis combien de temps habite-t-elle à Paris? Depuis combien de temps habite-t-elle à Paris? If you were to need the negation now in such sentences, just as usual, you will sandwich your verb with the ne and the pas, which is pretty easy here since you only have one verb. So, in your sentence, Mary hasn't been living in Paris for 8 years, we will therefore say this in French, in Mary n'habite pas à Paris depuis 8 ans. Okay? So you sandwich habite. Marie n'habite pas à Paris depuis 8 ans. Et voilà. Have a go at the quiz and remember the only difficulty here is that you use the past in English when we use the present as the action is still going on. Just take your time when coming across such a sentence as soon as you see since or for in English, because both really like to use this structure in your translation for your writing exam. So if you see since or for, remember, ask yourself if the action is still happening. If yes, then you will use the present in your French sentence. If you follow these tips, you will have no problem at all. Bravo et à bientôt. If you are doing higher, or if you would like to know about the second structure, using depuis in the past, then check the next lesson. Otherwise, try to use this in your writing exam. It will give you extra marks. Allez, merci beaucoup, à très bientôt dans la prochaine vidéo.